Morning and welcome to Daily Tanya. And today is Thursday, the 27th day of Iyar. Last night we counted 42 days to the Yom. And we start with Tzedakah again, with Gedele Tzedakah, Shemekareves Esageula. So we continue chapter 52 in the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe in today's lesson explains what is it about the Shechina, the divine presence that comes down to this world, and how can we tolerate this great light of the Shechina. To explain. So in the beginning of last chapter, the Alter Rebbe started explaining what does it mean that God dwells in certain places. Isn't God everywhere? What does it mean God is in the Holy of Holies, is in certain people in a higher place, in a higher way? And we gave the example of the body and the soul. The soul that gives life to the body. There is three stages. There is the essence of the soul, which is beyond anything that can be divided into details of the body. And when we're saying the essence of the soul, where in the body is the essence of the soul? It's everywhere. The entire body is alive in the same way. From the toenail to the hair to the brain, everything is in the same way, alive. The soul is everywhere. And then there is the details. The soul animates each and every organ according to what it needs. The eye to see, the ear to hear, the brain to think, and everything. But there must be something in between. What is the place, the center, the nerve center that connects this essential soul and drives it to each and every part of the body? That is the brain. In the brain, the entire life, in the potential of every part of the body receives its life from the brain. In the brain, it's in potential, and it draws down and goes down to each and every organ. So this the Alter Rebbe used as a metaphor to explain the idea, the way Hashem animates the world, sustains the world, sustains everything. God himself is beyond any relation to the world. And yet Hashem comes and animates every single part of the world. Everything in the world is alive and sustained because Hashem gives it its particular life, what it needs. Animals, vegetations, humans, mountains, water, anything in the world receives its particular life and energy from Hashem. But where is the center that Hashem brings down his light to become revealed, to become a potential to give life? This he calls the Shechina. The Shechina is the divine presence. The divine presence that comes as the potential of life to each and every part in each and every organ. Each and every part of this universe. The problem is the Shechina, the divine presence, which we will explain in each level. There is the Shechina, the brain of the world, so to speak. The problem is that the Shechina itself is also a light that is so powerful that in order to contain the godly light from the Shechina, it has to be concealed in a garment. Otherwise, it's going to be completely dissolved in its source, just like the light of the sun. The light that comes out of the sun, in order to be existing as a separate entity, has to be outside of the sun. But when the light is in the sun itself, it's part of the sun. So the energy, the godly energy that comes out from the Shechina to animate the world, if it comes without concealment, without a garment, so to speak, to conceal this light, then we wouldn't be existing as separate entities. We would be completely nullified in the existence of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence. So the question is, where does God hide this divine presence? What is considered, what can become a garment? And the problem is like this. If you're going to say something is considered a garment, the garment itself can also become, becomes one with the light. What can be a garment that conceals the light and can contain the light, and yet allow us not to be completely consumed within the light? This, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain in today's lesson, that there is something special that God gave to sustain the world, and that is the Torah. There is something unique about the Torah, which is considered God's brain. The Torah can be, on the one hand, it is not nullified in the Shekhinah. Why? Because the Torah, the source of the Torah, is higher than the Shekhinah. But yet, in the same time, God took the Torah and he placed it, lowered it into material and physical garments. In other words, because God is not limited by finite or infinite, he's above everything. So he gave us the Torah, which is connected with his very essence, which is higher than the light of the Shekhinah. And yet, in the same time, he placed it in very simple examples. What does the Torah talk about? Talks about material things, people who argue. One says this, one says that. Talks about the laws of buying and selling things, the laws of not to lie and not to cheat, the laws of an ox that gores a cow, and so on and so forth. And yet, in these words of the Torah, there hides tremendous wisdom of God. So just like to use an example, let's say a person who's a teacher who's very smart, and he delivers a very deep teaching, very deep teaching. And people who are sitting and listening and understanding the depth, and they can become completely mesmerized, and you can go crazy, can go nuts how deep this is. But this is because they have some kind of connection to the teachings. But it could be a child who hears the words and he can repeat every word what the teacher said, and is not going to be mesmerized, is not going to be moved at all, because he doesn't get the depth of it. Hashem has the depth of the Torah and is hiding it, his depth in the Torah. And therefore, the Torah becomes the garment that contains the light of the Shekhinah, and it delivers it down to this world. And this is why when we study Torah, when we do a mitzvah, we draw down Hashem's essential light into this world without even knowing what we're doing. This is the power of the Torah that can serve as the brain of the world, containing the light of the Shekhinah and bringing it down. Let's see how the Alter Rebbe says this inside. That's the Alter Rebbe. Avol HaShekhinah Atzma, שהיא ראשיס הגילוי ועיקורי, מה שאין סויב ברוך הוא מאיר לעולמס מבחינס גילוי, והיא מקור כל המשוחס החי שבכל העולמס. He says, but as for the Shekhinah itself, the divine presence, namely the origin and core of the manifestation whereby the blessed Ein Sof illumines the worlds in a revealed form, and which is the source of all streams of vitality in the world. And we're talking about that all of the world is only a ray, like a shine from the source. Their entire vitality being no more than the light which is diffused from it, like the light radiated from the sun. So it says this Shekhinah, the world, the way we know it, the physical world, not only the physical, even the spiritual world, they cannot tolerate this great light without being completely nullified. Concerning the Shekhinah itself, the source of all vitality for the world cannot endure or receive the light of this Shekhinah, that it might actually dwell and enclose itself in them without a garment, to screen and conceal its light from them. Without a garment, it would be nullified in the light of Hashem. כביטול אור השמש במקורו בגוף השמש. שאין נראה שם אור זה רק עצם גוף השמש בלבד. We need the garments, why? So that they may not become entirely nullified and lose their identity within their source, just as the light of the sun is nullified in its source, namely in the sun itself. If you take the light and you bring it back to the sun, it's going to be nullified in the sun itself, where this light cannot be seen, but only the integral mass of the sun itself. So the question is, what then can become a garment? What becomes the garment for this great light without the garment itself to be nullified in the great light? And that Alter Rebbe is going to explain that the garment is the Torah, because the Torah has in it the source of the Torah is higher than the Shekhinah itself. That's what Alter Rebbe explains. But what is this garment which is able to conceal and clothe the Shekhinah, yet will not itself be completely nullified within its light? This is the Alter Rebbe who Ratzaina Yisbarer v'Chachmasai v'Chulu Amalubashim B'Teiro Mitzvayseho Aniglis Lanu Levaneinu. This is his blessed will and wisdom, and so forth. And so forth, referring to the levels of Bina and Das, which are part of the intelligence above, so which are clothed in the Torah and mitzvahs that are revealed to us and to our children. We're talking about the level of the Torah that is revealed to us, because the Torah has many different levels. We know about the giving of the Torah. The angels, they wanted also the Torah, although they don't deal with access and cows and all kind of material things. They wanted the Torah in a more spiritual sense. And yet, the Torah, the way it's revealed to us, has that very essential wisdom of Hashem, which is one with Hashem himself. Because the Torah issues from wisdom, namely Yechachma Ilah, the supernal wisdom, which is the level of Chachma of Atzilus. Atzilus is the highest world. Chachma is the wisdom, one that is completely one The whole world of Atzilus is one with Hashem, and the Chachma of Atzilus is completely nullified. It is the godly intellect which is one with Hashem Himself. The le'ela me'alma de'izgalia, and that is immeasurably higher than the world of manifestation, which is the Shechina. And as we said, the Shechina is in Malchus of Atzilus, in the lowest level of Atzilus. So the Torah comes from a much higher place. Therefore, it can become the garment to contain this light. For he is wise with the wisdom of Chachma of Atzilus, but not with a knowledgeable wisdom and so forth. This we explained. The Rambam says, Maimonides says, that the wisdom of Hashem is not like wisdom of humans. God and His wisdom are one, not like a human that has the person and he has his wisdom and he has the intellect and so on, that are separate things. As has previously been explained, that the infinite light of the blessed Ein Sof is clothed in and united with the supernal wisdom, and He and His wisdom are one. Again, this is beyond our understanding, but we know that this is what it is. That the wisdom of Hashem is, which is the Torah, the will of Hashem, the wisdom of Hashem is one with God Himself, and therefore, when Hashem took this, His wisdom, and He placed it from step after step, after lowering in coming in material and physical teachings, that contains within it the ultimate wisdom of Hashem, the ultimate which is connected with Hashem Himself, and therefore it can become the garment for the Shekhinah. And this wisdom of Hashem, which is one with Hashem, came down into the Torah, into physical things. As the Alter Rebbe continues, only this is because it has descended, meaning the supernal wisdom and the Torah, has descended by means of obscuring gradations, from a higher grade to a lower grade, with the descent of the worlds, until it has clothed itself in material things, namely the 613 commandments of the Torah. So this is the end of today's shir. As the Alter Rebbe teaches us, brings us the idea that the Torah is the garment that contains the light of Hashem. And therefore, by us studying Torah and doing the mitzvahs, whether we understand it or not, we carry with us this great light of Hashem that sustains the world. This is why whenever people had any issues, any problems, physical, material, spiritual problems, health problems, parnasa problem, the Rebbe, they would come to the Rebbe and ask for advice. The Rebbe almost always would tie this with encouraging them to keep particular mitzvahs, encouraging them with studying the Torah. What does it have to do with health? Checking the mezuzahs, checking the tefillin, making sure that this mitzvah, keep the kosher, do Shabbos, and what does it have to do with material needs? And of course, because the Torah is the source of life of this world. God sustains this world and every part of the world through the Torah. And that's why when you do the Torah, you do the mitzvahs, you study Torah, you bring down this godly energy down to this world. And B'ezrat Hashem, we should be able to see it in a revealed way. Ultimately, we see it with the coming of Mashiach. Thank you for joining B'ezrat Hashem. We shall see you tomorrow.